This evening, ceremonial matters, we have none. Items from the public, non-agenda items. If anybody has anything that they would like to bring before us that is not on the posted agenda, seeing no one, agenda items, when the item comes before us and you'd like to comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and try to keep your comments to under 3 minutes. No public hearings. Consent calendar. Item A, waive all readings of ordinances and resolutions except by title. B, approval of warrants. B, approval of minutes of the August 28th, 2007 regular meeting.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item 10, regular business. Item A, award bid for the Public Works, for a Public Works pickup truck purchase.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Stated in the report, the Public Works Department advertised the bids for one new half-ton pickup truck with standard features. There were 4 bids that were sent out, and we only received 1 bid. The only sealed bid that we received was from Bigelow Chevrolet Buick from here in Newman for $29,011.79. Also included with your report, there's a memorandum from the Chief Plant Operator requesting that this purchase be made. So staff recommendation is that the City Council award the pickup truck bid to Bigelow Chevrolet Buick for $29,011.79. We did have $30,000 budgeted for it. Any questions?
Ernie, I've got a question. What's this pickup being used for, and why do we need another extended cab pickup out there? And why do we need a full-size pickup other than a smaller size pickup?
The reason, Councilman, that we needed to get a big pickup truck and also to have a tow package also as part of the bid was that from time to time we have to tow a heavy sewer machine out there to clean out the lines between the 2 ponds. There's a 15-inch line that tends to clog up with a lot of grease and deposits, and so this jet sprayer has to they have to use this machine so that they can go out and flush that line out. The machine, I believe, it has about a 400-gallon capacity, I believe, 400 or 500. I'm not sure which. And so that's a real heavy weight that the truck has to pull. And so, in order, say for example, if Lance isn't around and because he does have the big 4-wheel drive that we bought last year, that we would be able to have a pickup big enough to be able to tow that machine and be able to do the work. And this is one of the reasons why the Chief Plant Operator requested it is that size in order to be able to pull the machine. We use that same machine here in town, and again, we needed big pickup trucks to pull it. The light trucks are just too small.
And the reason for the extended cab?
I'm not too sure on that. I did not talk with the Lance Ferry on it, but I would just assume that it's additional cargo space, carrying space for their samples whenever they take samples around. But that's just me speculating.
Ernie, remind me, does he leave that pickup out there, or does he bring it back into town to the corp yard every night?
Chris Vargas?
Yes, Chris,
yes,
I'm sorry.
No, it stays at the corporation yard.
Okay.
And he travels over there.
So yeah, in other words, he leaves it, it's more secure in town, that's why.
In
Okay,
town, yes.
that's a reason why he leaves it there?
Exactly.
Okay.
There's no pickup trucks left out there.
Okay. Further questions? If not, direction?
I think we're buying more of a pickup than what we need for that job out there. And I'd like to table this until the next meeting and look at some other vehicles. I don't think we need an extended cab pickup. You know, there was a time I realized that this was in the budget, and there's a lot of things in the budget. But there was a time not long ago that the city didn't have a balanced budget. And could be in the future the same way. I can understand the need for a pickup out there to move things around. It's just that that's an awful lot of a pickup.
I agree with you, Mike. I mean, maybe we can, I know we need probably some pickups in town too, in the public works. Maybe we can do a little shuffling around, or I know we've got a couple that are gas hogs that have been around for a while. Maybe we can take a look at this again and see what we can do.
Mayor, Councilmember, would you like staff to come back with cost considerations if it was maybe drawn down to just a half-ton? You know, that's generally the size that we're going to need, at least a half a ton, but non-extended cab, and kind of more of a stripped-down model. Is that what is that I'm hearing direction? I wanted to make sure that as staff we can come back and at least present you with different options that are available out there. Is that what you're looking at? Is kind of do some cost considerations here of what the different types are. The minimum criteria we need to meet, at least a half a ton vehicle on here with some of the standard features on there, so we could possibly work with the chief plan operator and then and bring those back to you. Is that what you're looking for from staff?
Yeah, I think so. They make half-ton what they call a WT work truck, and they have all the standard features that I think everyone would need, and they're considerably less money. So yeah, if you'd bring back some other options.
Ernie, does Lance, does he have like a spec sheet he uses for when he, I mean, and just in general, when you're buying vehicles? I'm only, the reason I'm asking, I guess I'm just wondering if this wasn't a vehicle he didn't think that he needed, for that job. And I understand, Councilman Crinklaw's question, I mean, as far as, the need of an extended cab, and I don't know how much more money that is versus, a regular half-ton truck, but I'm just curious if there's a what's the word I'm looking for, a spec sheet that he's specifically looking for when he's looking for a pickup.
Yeah. I apologize for not having had put in the pickup specifications that he drew up on this. And out of the specifications that he points out here is where I see where he has heavy-duty locking rear differential, heavy-duty handling, trailering, suspension package, heavy-duty trailering equipment tow package. These are the ones that jump out at me that says that his intention was a big enough truck to pull that machine. Okay. Now the rest of that comes along here are pretty much, cruise control, white exterior color, air conditioning, digital AM, FM, power windows, fleet side box, large capacity fuel tank. But what really jumps out as me is his request for the heavy duty, and again, it's with him thinking about having that tow package. I'm not an expert in as far as on pickup trucks. I'm sure that most of you guys who use the pickups know a lot more about them than I do. I don't know what's available out there. My only thing is that upon the request from Lance Perry asking for these, the specifications he drew up as such are because he does have a need for them. And that's all I can state at this time.
And my only concern, and I understand what you're saying, Mike, but my only concern is I want to make sure that they don't get less of a truck than what's needed. If they need a certain type of vehicle, I want to make sure that that we give them the proper tools to do their job, and that's my only concern. I don't want to make them go out and get less of a truck than what is needed. Then I think we just shot ourselves in the foot.
And we'll do that, Councilman Keaton. We'll go ahead and we'll talk with the chief plan operator and make sure that we fully understand what what the truck is needed for, and we'll bring that information to
Yeah.
the council so they can be informed. We'll also bring in different options that could meet those standards. So we'll provide you more information, and we'll re-agendize this at your next meeting.
Right, there's no real hurry on this. We
Ernie,
still
okay.
need the trucks.
We didn't have any other pickups budgeted, right, for the Public Works? I mean, in town. This is the only one this year?
That's the only one this
You
year.
know, if you could get us like a list of pickups we got right now,
Sure.
and, you know, like mileage, years, tonnage, just to kind of take an overview, maybe we can get 2 for 1 here. You know what I mean? I think we're in need of a pickup in other areas too, but just a quick overview and which ones are CNG and which ones aren't, you know, just on what they run on gas, CNG, just to take a look at the overall fleet, you know? See if
Yeah,
we can,
and one of the other things I look at, I mean, they're replacing a 93 Ford. I mean, the thing's got 14 years of service, and
yeah.
obviously I think there's a need for it, so
But we have other ones in town that are older than 93 though, don't we?
I understand that,
Yeah.
and it's never made sense to me.
No, yeah, that's why.
Was that 93 Lance's old pickup?
That 1993 was bought new in 1992 for Lance. And then in 1999, when we acquired additional property and we had all those dirt roads and he wasn't able to access them during the winter months, he requested a 4x4 so that he'd be able to get out there. At that time, again, we were, I guess, looking at, being frugal with our budget. So we went out and looked and bought a used truck, and we got a lease return from Patchett's, which was in 1997, and this was in 99. And it had, I think, about 60 some odd thousand miles on it. And this lasted him 6 or 7 years, but the latter years were high cost and high maintenance and repair costs. And that was a pickup that we replaced last year. And in the meantime, that 1993, he gave it to his assistant, Chris Vargas. And so now that's the one we're looking to replace, which gave a good 14 years of service since we purchased it new. And now even that one, we're going to see if we can use it to replace other older ones in non-enterprise departments.
Okay.
And I just would like to point out that by purchasing a new vehicle that will give you 14, 15 years of service, well, that department, if we buy an additional one, won't be looking for a vehicle purchase for a long time, so.
We'll all be gone by then.
Yeah, hopefully so.
I mean, retired, not.
So-
Michael, one other consideration, there's financing packages out there at 60 months, no interest. Are we going to participate in something like that? Rather than just write a check for the whole thing now?
We can look into that.
You know,
See if-
5 years, no interest.
Yeah, and we're getting 5 right now from Leaf, so
That's right.
5 ahead.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Ernie.
Thank you,
You're
Ernie.
welcome, yes.
Okay. Item B, adopt resolution number 2007, next number, a resolution approving subdivision improvements in the Sherman Rant subdivision and authorizing the filing of a notice of completion for storm drain channel landscaping from Barrington Avenue to Hills Ferry Road.
Yes, this report has to do with the requirements that were in agreement with SCM Capital Company, and that was that they had to issue performance bonds for the storm drain channel improvements for the subdivision. And included with your report, you should have a letter from the SCM Capital Company requesting the release of bonds and that the city of Newman approve and accept said improvements.
We do not have that in our report.
It's not in the report?
No.
Again, I apologize for that. The SCM Capital is requesting that we accept the improvements. The irrigation system, the landscaping, the sod installation, all the surface improvements have been completed as per job plans and specifications. So all the improvements have been inspected and approved as installed. So staff recommendation is that the Newman City Council approve the resolution next in number accepting the improvements.
Questions for Ernie? Actually drove by there this weekend and again today. That section Looks a lot better than the older section. I
It
guess we're
does.
having a little problem with our landscapers there, huh? With
Those
the weeds
are-
and different things.
Well, this one, Mayor, is sod installation, where the other one was seeded.
Yeah.
And this,
I see a lot of water grass and different weeds still coming through that no-mow sod, so.
yes, but overall, it looks really good. The channel's been cleaned, everything that has been asked of them has been done.
Questions, comments? Not direction?
I so move for adoption of resolution number 2007, next number, approving the Sherman Ranch Storm Drain Channel landscaping from Barrington Avenue to Hills Ferry Road, and authorizing John Fantasia as mayor and Michael E. Holland as city clerk to record a notice of completion.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item C, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 2007, next in number, amending Title 3, Section 3-01.040 of the Newman City Code, requiring consistency with SAT, but that should be state, I guess, and federal law. Chief?
Mayor, members of the City Council, currently the City of Newman has a moratorium on the issuing of business licenses to marijuana dispensaries as described in Proposition 215. Although this proposition was passed by a majority of California voters, it is in direct conflict and violates federal drug enforcement statutes. This ordinance will make it easier for city staff to address the permissibility of permits, licenses, where there may be conflict between local, state, and federal law, such as the operation of medical marijuana dispensaries. It also provides the city with a clear regulatory basis for pursuing civil action in addition to criminal prosecution for unlawful uses. The ordinance does not make anything unlawful that is not already unlawful under local, state, or federal law. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the chief? Not some direction?
I would move to approve the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 2007, next in number, amending Title 3, Section 3.01.040 of the Newman City Code, requiring consistency with state and federal law.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, Chief. Item D, approval of funding request and participation in joint fire protection study.
Thank you, Mayor. At our previous city council meeting, we had members from the West Stanislaus Fire District address the council during the public comment period, and part of that was to make the council aware of a joint study that's going to be conducted here on the west side, and that was with the city of Patterson and West Stanislaus. And even prior to that, Councilmember Kelly and myself met with Mayor Campos and City Manager Cleve Morris from Patterson and discussed this opportunity for what the study is going to do. And I put a copy of the proposal in your packet, but it's a proposal to conduct a joint fire protection study. And what that means is Citygate Associates would look at all the different options that are available to look at if there's any possible way for joint fire services, and that would be joint being between the cities of Patterson, Newman, and West Stan. That doesn't put Newman in any situation to where we have to accept the recommendations, but we would be active participants in providing them information and going through the reports and reviewing that and seeing if there are ways that the three agencies can have cost savings in the future as we transition towards a full-time fire department. Currently, the city of Patterson is transitioning into a full-time fire department, and they have a mix at this particular point in time of volunteers and paid firemen. I believe their chief, Kinnear, is both serves as the chief of West End and the city of Patterson. So there is some sharing of duties that are currently that currently exists between West End and the city of Patterson. And so this study, what it would do, would continue to build upon that and see if there are further ways. If you look over to the east side of the county, they're also doing...
Let's not do that, no.
Well,
Right, Jim?
Part of what's happening is yeah, they're looking at ways of cost savings. There's quite a number of different fire districts out there, and it's really becoming cost prohibitive for each of them to operate independently. And so we're trying to get ahead of the game. And while we're not at the point to where we need a full-time paid fire department, we still will use volunteers for as long as possible. But we are getting to a threshold in population that requires us to start planning for that. And this is one of the first steps, is just planning towards that. So with that, also, I've discussed with the city manager Morris about a fair share breakout of cost considerations if the council elects to do that. But originally we had looked at, they originally came out with 25% for city of Newman would be our cost considerations. But when I explained to him my logic, and we were about the half the size of Patterson, though, what we would look at and what we came to an understanding would be a 40-40-20 split. 40% city of Patterson of the cost, 40% West End for the cost, and 20% for the city of Newman. So with that, there's a $10,930 cost consideration for you to consider if you want to join in that. This fire study will proceed whether or not we participate in the funding or not. We have agreed to participate in the sharing of information, and that makes it one of the key ingredients to having a successful joint fire study protection study. So with that, I can answer any questions that you may have.
I think we're wise to jump on the game here. I know you brought up the east side, but I mean, the east side is having some very troublesome districts, and they're having trouble with some of the cities that they jointly have districts with, covering different things. So and funding, they're having funding issues too. So I think it's wise to get ahead of the game here, get this done before we do have problems.
Well, I
I'm in
think
favor
even
of
with the
this.
increased difficulty it is to get qualified staff for volunteers and the mandates that are now put on volunteer staff in terms of training, and I mean, they're basically getting full-time firefighter training requirements. So yeah, I would agree. I think it's money well spent, and we'd be foolish not to participate.
Mike, didn't they also say that, like you said, volunteer and full-time firemen, that the company that's doing the survey or the study also handles that kind of thing, gives recommendations how to handle it?
That's
I mean, there was a
correct.
lot more in this than just a simple, I mean, and that's where, again, if I was a volunteer fireman and the guy next to me is being paid to, and I'm on the same truck right next to him fighting the fire, I'm going to have a little problem with that.
And this group, Citygate, they were the unanimous choice by the interviewing committee, which I was fortunate enough to be able to sit upon, as well as members of the City Council of Patterson and the West End Fire District staff and board members as well. It was pretty unanimous that this is a dynamic group. They're not going to come in. And with the first group, my first question was, how do we know we're not going to get some plan that's off the shelf, dust it off, and change the name? And that's really the way we felt with the first group. But this group is very dynamic, and they put a cost consideration of the $54,000 on there. They could come back to us in 2 months and only expend half of that and say, guys, this isn't going to make any economic sense for anybody. We would just probably give you this report right now and just kind of go with it. So I think it'll be a very dynamic, a very fluid report. I think it'll really address what is occurring here in West Stanislaus County at this particular point in time, and address the three agencies. So,
Michael, are there certain thresholds that determine when you no longer, no longer can have a volunteer fire department? You have to go to a paid. Is there a population threshold?
there's not a mandated threshold, but what you're seeing and what we discussed with Citygate briefly was, when cities start getting into 10,000, and even with, as Councilmember Caton spoke about, is the training that's now required for volunteers and as such, the number of our volunteerism is declining, and a lot of that is because of training and because of commuting. We're starting to look at that, and so they're saying really around 10,000. You start looking at it more and more in terms of getting, at least 1 or 2 paid guys on there. And there's so much OSHA paperwork that goes on now that has to be mandated, and they have to keep on file. That's almost a full-time job in itself. So, is it a chief's position? Is it a captain's position? We don't know, but those are some of the things that we could talk about in a report. So, no, there's no hard number threshold. But we're at a point right now where we're going to probably start exploring it, and you've touched on this in the last couple of years, Councilman Greenclaw, and we're going in that direction. So now it's that time to look at it.
What parameters and at what point does our fire? I don't know if the terminology is correct. Our fire insurance rating changed by the number of firemen we have, don't have, as far as fire insurance.
I'm not real sure about ISO and their rating system there. I know we still have a pretty good rating. So
I don't think it goes by
years.
the number we have. I think it's just they come and evaluate and rate. I think from the past,
and they
if I
rate.
remember right,
Well,
in the past
they do a
reports.
number of things. They look at personnel. They look at number of stations, your equipment. Is it updated? Is it outdated? Response time, your average response time, and lots of different things. But if you'd like, I can come back with further information or have Chief Souza maybe do a presentation at our first meeting in October about that.
Since we don't have a whole lot of fires, I think we get most of our calls are EMT calls. I think that helps us in our rating because the fires we have a quick response. And I remember from reports from past years.
We're only 1-2 fires a month.
Yeah,
out of
it's
all the
very
calls.
low.
It's very limited. Yeah,
But that in turn also relates back to every citizen in this town and their
fire insurance.
Yes.
fire insurance.
That's correct.
That's
That's
point.
correct. And the use of fire hydrants and those types of things in their location. There's
Pressure and all
the
that
pressure
stuff, yeah.
exactly. There's lots of different things that play into that. So
Michael, a question. Has the fire department never found themselves in a position, like during the day, where they may have insufficient people to fight a fire? What I'm saying is, do they keep any record of when a fire occurs, like I say, especially during the day? Because I know a lot of these volunteer firemen,
right.
are working out of town. And I just wondered, do they keep records such as that? Or
I don't have the number of volunteers that currently work in town, but I could get that from Chief Souza and report back to you on that and let you know in my weekly report to you.
I'm sure Mel could probably
Yeah.
update us on that too. Thank you.
There was a list in the last, in this packet listing the number of firemen and how many calls they.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
I saw that.
Further questions, comments? If not, some direction.
I move for approval.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
And Mayor, I have to assume that included the funding request.
Yes,
Okay.
complete approval financially as well as supportively.
And I second that again.
You didn't say funding request, that's why I asked. Item E, adopt resolution number 2007, next to number, authorizing the city manager to an agreement with Barbosa Video Services.
Thank you, Mayor. Currently, we have the city of Patterson, the city of Newman, and the two related school districts have an agreement with Barbosa Video Services. And what Mr. Barbosa does is he, for our services, what he does is he televises and operates the government education channel on Comcast cable. And what he does, we'll run the video down to him next morning, and he'll take care of that and make sure everything gets run over, executed, and they're all up and timed, and he does a little bit of editing for them. What he has proposed over the last 2 years, and last year the city managers and I didn't necessarily go forward with it, and the superintendents, but this year we're contemplating it is an expanded contract. What the expanded contract is, he is proposing, Mr. Barbosa is proposing that Barbosa Video Services will provide 30 hours per week of production time to be split between the four agencies. And that works out to about 1 day a week, 7.5 hours a week of production time that would be allotted to each agency, and that could do several different things. What the city of Newman and I discussed at our staff meetings is things that we could do are training seminars. So if the Public Works Department wanted to do a safety video and show future hirees a safety video and have them watch it, Gordon could come out and run the cameras, do all the editing, and help produce that video for us under these 7.5 hours a month. Another thing that we were throwing around is because of the fact that we have introduced a lot of new ordinances lately, we could do a 1-hour production, a 1-hour show, and run that monthly on the channel talking about the new ordinances. And we could spend an hour on each ordinance, or we could spend half an hour on it. We could do some of these are just things that have jumped out to either myself or other staff members. We could do a day in the life of, with Edgar, our code enforcement officers, and have a camera on scene with him as he goes through the community and what he's looking for and how he goes about his job, so that they get an understanding of what the code enforcement, the community service officer is doing. These are little things that we could all add up. We could have had a production going on with the Fall Festival, the Newman Fun Run event, and then televise these over our government access channel as well. I know the school board is using it. We'll be using it for televising their meetings. They could also be used to, Gordon could edit football games, and they could run the football games on there. They're talking about having a math channel. These are all different things that could potentially happen with that. So currently we pay $267 a month under our current contract, and I pardon my mishap on this, but I didn't put what the new amount was. The new amount would be $660 a month, is what Mr. Barbosa is proposing. So that impact to the 07-08 budget year would be $3,519 above what is currently budgeted, because it would be taken from October 1st through June 30th. So we wanted to run that by this council. I know the school district brought that to their board last night. I didn't hear from Rick whether or not they passed it or not, but I know Dr. Foss was recommending that they look at that and take a good look at that. Our approval obviously is subject to all 4 of the agencies approving it as well. So with that, if we don't approve it, or if we go forward and the other ones don't, then obviously we wouldn't move forward with the contract on that. And then part of the operational cost of why we're paying $660 out of the $3,000 a month is an agreement that we have with the city of Patterson. The city of Patterson is actually the contract city with Comcast Cable, and there is a fair share methodology of how that cost is going to be shared between the cities and the school districts. So with that, I can answer any questions that you may have at this particular point in time.
Do we have any feedback or any way to track how many people are watching that channel?
That's a great question. I haven't brought that issue up with Gordon, other than just people on the street that
I get people all the time say, we watch you on TV the other night, and I ask them, why do you watch that? And they said they like it.
I tell them they're wasting their time. But
You don't have anything better to do that.
But I think one of the things, Michael, not everyone can receive it, and I think if more people could, they would. I think more people would watch,
Right.
and I think that's the problem.
And I think if we're, because of the level of service that this community received, probably up until the upgrade, which occurred maybe 2 years ago, Mayor, if you recall.
Yeah.
The level of service was very poor with Comcast, and I think what happened was a significant number of people then went to
Satellite.
satellite, either Dish or DirecTV.
Yep.
But I think, with being able to provide a secondary show every month, or, talking about our ordinances, talking about our code enforcement programs, getting to know staff, getting to know the council, and those types of things, there is potential to maybe draw people more to that channel. Also, as part of this, there's going to be channels that we will get from one of the satellite operators, and shows that we'll put on this government access channels that currently aren't available on Comcast Cable, like the NASA channel, and they have a morning show for kids and educational shows, and we put that on, and maybe some of that could get into the classroom as well. So
Michael, the hours, are they above and beyond the council hours and the school board? Or that's included with the timeline per week of?
What we use Mr. Barbosa for right now is very minimal. So, basically he's just televising our events for our broadcast at this particular point in time, and he probably programs that in. I don't think he needs to be there 7 o'clock on Thursday or whenever it's shown. So, 7.5 hours, we're going to net about 7 out of that, 7 hours a week out of that. So, you're looking at about 25 to 30 hours, or it'd be 28 hours a month that we could be utilizing and producing shows.
Did we ask?
And it also could be, excuse me, Mayor, it could also be used for training. We could train our staff members to, on the board. We could train our, we have a video, we have an on-site camera that we can take out of here and take it out into the streets and televise events and activities that are going on, and we could train our staff to operate those. And so this can be used either for training, production, or those types of things.
Did we ask him if he was able to, remember last meeting we went 2 hours, we went a little bit over 2 hours?
Yes.
Did we find out why we got cut off at 2 hours? Does anybody know that?
No, that has to do with, we have 2-hour DVDs.
Okay. Do they make longer ones or no? Oh,
So
just in case.
Yeah.
Huh? They do?
Oh, yeah. I don't know about for this, yeah.
So we'll investigate that, but right now the best course that we have are the 2-hour DVDs that we have.
Well, I think we're going to make it tonight, but just for future meetings. You never know.
We can stress Bob out by talking a little bit more. Yeah.
Mike, would it be possible to, and I hate to do this to you, but put a list together? You've said the things that, there's so many things that could be used for, but just put a list together for us.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be elaborate or anything.
Right. Well, that's something if the council has support for this and they adopt this resolution, it's definitely something that we would work with the council on and get your ideas on what you want us to produce. We're here to get the information out for you, so you tell us what you want us to produce and the information that you want to get out, and then as your staff, we'll make sure that we can, work with Gordon to get something out and produce a show on that.
I think Councilmember Kelly wants a segment on speeders down the street, right? I can tell already by what he's looking at.
In my mind.
And how to plant a tree.
And a tree. That's why we're buying the new truck. For my 5th tree.
Oh, sorry to bring that up, but
Michael, I'd be glad to go along with this program if we could, at the end of the year's contract, take a look at somehow quantitatively determine whether a certain amount of people are watching this or whether we're just broadcasting it out in thin air.
Okay. One thing that we could do, the first thing we could do is either get the number of users we have in town and then maybe send something out. We could also put something on our website. We have the availability of doing polls on our website. Do you watch the city council meetings on TV? So.
Couldn't you ask Comcast how many people you have?
I don't know
I'm not
that they have the availability of
Yeah.
checking in on how many
Yeah.
people are programmed that in. So that's a pretty tough one to do. So.
I'd be getting into
Or I
some
could send
technical.
Mike Meyer around and knock on every
Knock
door.
on doors with the camera. Yeah.
Complete service.
And if they opened the door and they knew why he was there, then they're watching. Right?
Are you watching? We're watching you.
If there's no further questions, some guidance on this issue?
I would like to see though the list before I do it, to be honest. I don't know.
The list of
I
what,
think it's good, of what the suggestions, really what we're going to do.
the list of what we're going to propose?
Yeah,
or?
the proposed, we can probably pass it, can't we, before we, okay.
Pass it, then of course everybody else has to pass it too for it to work. So yeah.
No, that's true too.
Yeah.
Councilman Kelly, you could tell Chief Ulibarri right now which show you want first.
Is that a motion?
I make a motion
Oh.
that we accept the report on contract with Barbosa Video Services.
We have a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item F, report on Central Valley Soccer League Real Olympico.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, At the request of the council, staff has provided you a copy of the agreement that we have with Central Valley Soccer League, Real Olímpico. As it indicated in the report, this is the soccer league that has been practicing or played in the center of town in Densmore Park for a number of years. And then a couple years ago, at the request of the council and neighbors in the surrounding area, we relocated this group out to the Bush Rose Park, of which they've been now operating. As you can see, we have an operating agreement with them. They keep liability insurance and name the city as a co-insurer and certificate holder of that. I know the operator, Mr. Azevedo, Daniel Azevedo, is a very outstanding gentleman. He tries very hard to clean up after him. You can't always control the fans. And there are people, that do participate there that aren't necessarily associated with the group. So,
With that, that's what I have a problem with, because I just think if they're using our facility, I think somebody's got to be responsible for that. And if this gentleman wants to have this soccer league there, I think he's got to accept some responsibility. In terms of, it says he tries to pick up the garbage, he tries to do this, he tries to do that. I think, you will do it. It's a must that it be done. And in fact, as gentleman spoke to us before, I have a concern that if the families that live in and around that park don't feel that they can take their children to that park when this soccer league is there, I have a problem with that.
well, again, we haven't received, outside this gentleman right here, staff. We're not getting inundated. We're not getting other phone calls from members of that particular neighborhood at this point in time. In the past when we have, he's always been took in our comments and received them well, and he goes out and again he cleans up the place. Well, what happens is if you get a soccer game on Sunday, people just show up that are unrelated to him, and sometimes people go out there and play soccer that aren't this particular group. And maybe people think that they are that particular group, so because not all of his games are in that particular location.
Yeah.
Well, I walk by that almost every Monday morning, and I'm telling you, I've never seen anything. It's amazing. They keep that place really nice, and I apologize for that language. That's not acceptable. And I'll bet the gentleman that's running it, from what I understand, is a stand-up guy. I'll bet you he'll make sure that doesn't happen. And I'm sure you have something to say tonight, hopefully, but I've never seen it. The place looks spotless. And that's on Monday morning at 6:30 in the morning. So, and that's after Sunday with a ton of people there.
A couple things. We had some pictures circulating up here of the bottom of the park. Obviously, we don't want that to continue. There's a lot of bare spots in the bottom, so if we could figure that part out.
Well, my son practices soccer out there. There are some bare spots out there, and and we're going to work and get those replaced. But for all in all, that park's in, it's very green. It's lush. It's in good shape. But there are exceptions to that, Mayor. You're correct. You are seeing spots out there, and, but they're not vast spots. So
I thought that was a football field.
On a rainy Saturday night.
Anytime you use a field like that, you're going to have this sort of thing occur. I know I looked at Sherman Park. You could see there was some activity, which is good. I mean, we've got these young people out there playing soccer, which is the best thing that could be going on out there. So the grass will be, it's going to have to be replaced at times, but that's going to occur. That's just normal. I think when you play soccer like that, there's a lot of traffic in one general area. But one other comment I'd like to make, I used to live close to Dinsmore Park, and that group did play soccer there, and I never saw any problems. I mean, they always, they had their families there and everything, and I never ever saw a problem. So I would think that would be consistent with when they moved from that park to the other park. Same group, they shouldn't have had any problems.
Mike, have you had any problems with scheduling? I mean, if I was a coach and let's say if you had something to do on Saturday and you couldn't, coach your team, that you practice then on a Sunday and they had a problem getting a field? I don't think there is any problem that way. Is there in town?
There's not a problem right now. You know, and I was going to talk a little bit about this. We just opened up our soccer season, and I don't know if anyone got to go by Sherman Park on Sunday, but it's a tremendous park with the 4 fields out there. There's plenty of room for teams to warm up. You know, if you go down there during the week, you could probably see 3-4 soccer teams at one time practicing and not running into each other. And we have Barrington, and that goes on over there as well. So, and nobody practices on Sunday, so I don't think he's interfering there.
That's what I mean. It's not interfering.
I
The only
thought
thing
I
I'm a
saw
little
5
bit.
fields.
I'm sorry, Bob.
There's 4 fields. We have 4 divisions, and each division has its own field. So, but I'll talk a little bit more about that.
What I'd like to see too is some of these organizations that need money be out there selling water, ice cream, whatever, ice or ice cones or something like that. I mean, there's a ton of people. There's a lot of, I don't mean, selling food or anything, but something drinks especially. And they could make some money. They get off their.
Well, the snack bar, those funds are used for the park, I think.
We have a snack bar out there at Sherman for our facility and for our operation that's run by the teen center.
Okay.
Teen center gets 60% of the profit, and the city gets 40% of the profit.
Good.
So that's a way. And if you looked at it last year, they made significant amount of money. They bought a 52-inch TV. They bought a Wii game system with numerous games, and I think they bought something else, maybe an air hockey table. So they made some significant amount of money in about 8 or 10 weeks out there. So, but they staff it up, and you get teen center operators out there. So, but back to this agreement with Real Olímpico. If there's any council member that wants to let identify staff and tell us if there's any concerns that you have that we can put into the agreement. We're more than willing to do that, and for future considerations.
It's not that I don't support. The recommendation is obviously to prove it, and I don't have a problem. But I just think it would be wise that you have conversation with Mr. Asby and say there are some concerns and complaints. They've been good neighbors and so far, but he still has a responsibility of making sure that and because it says on here part of the agreement is spectators as well, and
Sure.
so. I simply, we have a concern, and I don't care if it's just one person or one family, whatever. If one of our local families doesn't feel they can use the park, because this stuff goes on, it concerns me. So I just, I like to convey to this person, Mr. Azevedo, that, at least one council member has a concern with it and like to make sure it's addressed.
I'll have a personal conversation with him on Thursday regarding that item.
Fine, thanks.
One thing in this report that caught my eye is the $1 million policy. Aren't we requiring, I know we do it for events and stuff, didn't we decide $1 million isn't anything nowadays, require at least a $3 million policy?
Yeah, that policy was enacted probably around April of this year. This contract was earlier than that, so we will address that with him at next year's contract.
Mayor, is it possible?
Isn't this a renewal though, excuse me?
No, not at this particular point. The council asked that we bring this back as an informational item. So the
Okay.
current contract expires January 1st of 2008.
So we can't go back and require more insurance?
Not at this particular point in time.
That bothers me tremendously. I'm serious. Because, with the group, the number of people out there week after week playing, if something happens, if somebody would get sued and it's over $1 million, then we're stuck for the rest, right? Basically, if he only has.
We have our RMA that we work with on that, so anything above.
But it's
$1
till
million.
January 8th, so that's coming up on us.
January
Till January 1 of
1st, yeah.
2008,
January
so
1st,
it's right around the corner, so.
At that particular point in time, then we will increase it to
Yeah.
the allotted $3 million.
They have a $3 million aggregate, just not for each occurrence. Yes.
Okay. Well, you can echo my concerns of Councilmember Ed there, that I am concerned too about the whole thing. Because even though we haven't heard officially from people coming to meeting, I have heard a couple other complaints from neighbors about squealing tires when they leave the game and different things like that. So they just didn't want to come to the meeting. Did you want to say anything else, or?
That's what.
Will we have an executive fields in Newman?
Yes, we have soccer fields in Newman. We have them at Barrington Park, and then we have them at Sherman Park. No, we have, and Alfred Bush Road, we have several locations where people can play soccer. No, we don't have a soccer-only facility. Can you,
Can
Yeah,
you
come-
can you
come
come up to the microphone? I expect Bob to come out that door any minute.
You like to play baseball, there's a baseball field. When you play bases, a tournament with baseball field, same as soccer, same thing, same as tennis, same as swimming, anything else, same. Make it a unit, a field to play whatever it is assigned to play. Why? Another one. I have one more question. When the colony, when I live, what's the assign, right? We wanna make this colony, right? And we wanna put a park here, right? I hope that what I came to you guys, this is not correct? That park was assigned, right? But they didn't put no tables in there, nothing, no trees, no nothing. How come? How come we was supposed with no trees, no tables, no nothing? I wonder why.
there are tables and trees out there
No,
along the
no,
perimeter. Yes,
no.
there are. There are
No,
trees.
Not on the bottom, you
Not in the
mean,
park,
not on the bottom,
around,
yeah.
But then in
Yeah.
the park, it's a field. How come? No parks like that. Isn't that strange?
Well, I know what you're saying, but see, the purpose of that is a storm drain park, for, in the wintertime when it rains. So if we put trees down there and we got a lot of water, then they would die. That's the reason it was built like that.
Oh, okay.
The first
First
purpose
priority
is
is drainage.
to
Oh,
drainage,
I
just
didn't
like
know.
Sherman Ranch.
Yeah,
But no, I know what
know.
you're saying, yeah, why isn't there no trees and stuff in the bottom, but yeah.
It's like when
Yep.
when I used to live, we used to go to a park.
Yep.
Get barbecue, right? You sit down on a table, enjoy it. Let's start
Yep.
enjoy it. That's any park like that.
That's
How-
why.
How
Yeah.
come?
That's why the first purpose of it is for storm drain water, when it rains. Then, this time of year when we don't have any rain, then we use it as a park. But yeah, that's why. There's no trees and stuff in the bottom, but
Anyway, so we I'm sorry, the question. Do we have any soccer fields on the soccer fields here? Soccer only? Or
no, we don't have,
Would
we
that
don't
be-
have a park that just is designated soccer only. We do not.
Will that be too difficult to get one?
We could definitely look into that, yes.
Because I see a lot of people, and I enjoy soccer. I mean, when I'm too old to play, but when I was young, I
Too-
used to play.
you're not
I
too
love
old.
it. I love it. And it's fun. It's fun. I think it's very good to play soccer. And why don't we work on the soccer field? I mean, I think it's good.
Something we can look at for the future. Yep.
Well, I hope it will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that was just informational, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Item G, report on underground districts.
Oh, yes, Mr. Mayor, council members, this is a follow-up report on the underground districts. We held a meeting with all the utilities on September 5th, and that was mostly to inform them about the action that you as a council had taken in the separation of the districts. The meeting mostly focused on District 5, which is the Plaza project, since Arezzo says that by June 30th, 2008, all the affected properties must be ready to receive underground utilities, and by the end of 2008, that all the overhead facilities had to be removed. We went over some issues that we had previously discussed, such as that it had been agreed upon that PG&E would be the trenching agent. One of the concerns that AT&T had was that in order to fund their project, trenching project for next year, they needed to have their design completed by the end of this year. And AT&T was wanting a copy from PG&E in order to determine, okay, which trenches they were going to be doing and which ones they could share with them. And so AT&T said we need to get the design from PG&E by October 31st at the latest, in order so that they could have adequate time to complete their own design. We had a new player from PG&E. He was Representative Jaime Pentaja Martinez, that has taken over for Steve Huff, because Steve Huff is now in some training, and he does. And Mr. Pentaja Martinez stated that He doesn't believe that the project has been approved for the design to begin. And once it is approved, he said that it would take 2 to 3 months to complete. So hence the problem with AT&T. He said that he was going to look into the project and to the status, and he was going to develop a schedule, and that he wouldn't know until the end of this week. So we're waiting to hear from him by the end of this week before so that we can follow up with another meeting. We also discussed the existing gas line in the alley, that it seems to be encroaching in the corridor, and that might require relocation. And Mr. Pantaja Martinez said that he would review the gas line location and that he would discuss it with PG&E's gas department. Again, this issue had previously been discussed with Steve Huff. Also, as part of the plaza design, we need to put in a storm drain basin and a line in the existing parking lot, run it to the east, and then over to the corner of the intersection of Tulare and Highway 33. The section of storm drain line that has to traverse the alley, it will be installed when the water line in the alley is relocated. And this will be designed by our city engineer, Gary Rogers of Boyle Engineering. So that's where we're at. That's what we came to in our meeting. And I won't have any more information from you until we hear from the PG&E representative and we follow up on it and find out just where PG&E is at this time. Any questions?
Did he give you an answer or schedule, or when you're negotiating with those lovely people, what you want to do is when they say they'll get back to you, you just give them a date.
Oh, yes, we told him by the end of this week, so
Okay, so
we'll be
just call
calling
him.
on him
Yeah,
by
just-
tomorrow at the latest and
just-
reminding him,
Yeah,
where are you with this? We want to call another meeting and we want you there.
good.
Yes.
With that, I know our city attorney, Hallinan, had some issues that the city of Riverbank is having with PG&E and Real 20 money, but also just wanted to let you know, our city engineer, Gary Rogers of Boyle Engineering, has run across these troubles with PG&E in the city of Los Banos, where he was the city engineer over there as well. So we're going to use him a little bit more on this process and keep their feet to the fire, because again, he's run through this process before, and so he'll be able to devote that. He's aware of what their policies and procedures are. So with Tom.
Yeah, these are common problems, the slippage of the funding on PG&E's side and then the coordination with somebody else. Usually it's Caltrans. I think one potential way, first let's see what happens at the end of the week from PG&E. My guess is they're going to say, we're going to try and be sure and fund it next year, which means the design would be done at the end of next year. One way to try and handle this potentially is to say, well, what if AT&T and the city help with the design? Now, we would have to see if that makes sense for us, obviously, but that's another option to maybe, when you're negotiating, say, oh, that's a problem, well, we'll take care of that problem.
Yeah.
Right. And there is a firm out of Gilroy by which I will be getting their number to see what kind of turnaround time and, back of the envelope type costs associated with, at least looking at that block between Fresno and Tulare that has the biggest profound effect on moving forward with our plaza project. And maybe that's where, if we can get something done with a private firm and PG&E will buy off on it, then maybe there's some latitude there.
That sounds like a good idea, because also get the timeline and the money that we could potentially lose if we lose the whole project, so,
Yeah,
that
Yes.
that's the
goes
analysis
into the
you
whole
make.
thing
It might
also.
cost us some upfront engineering, but that saves us
not losing
we
money
might
in the end
lose.
for the
Right.
timeline, so.
Yeah.
And that's T money as well. And I think
Absolutely,
that's money I'm speaking
absolutely.
about, so.
And we don't want to lose that.
No.
Because if you lose that in a city, it looks bad for the next time you want to do a project, because you're asking for something and you don't lose it,
That's
as
correct.
we all know. I know all too well. Okay, thank you very much. Item H, report by Supervisor DeMartini. Jim, And again, thank you for bringing your DiMartini to our parade. We always enjoy seeing that unique truck.
And thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I really enjoyed the Fall Festival, and it gives me a chance to use that truck. I had it restored, and it's only good for parades, and the top speed's 27 miles an hour, and I'm not sure it will actually
You'd have to
do
leave
that.
a couple hours ahead of time, get here
No,
in
it's
time.
trailered over here, Mayor. And then put back on the trailer and hauled back, but I did enjoy the Fall Festival very much. This evening, we had, Stanislaus County had sent, I believe, to your city attorney a revision of the scrap metal ordinance because we realized the problem that, or the question that came up from Westside Pallet. And the problem we ran into is we took the state of California's definition of scrap dealers, which included pallet companies. And our intention was never to regulate pallet companies, so today, at our meeting, we changed the definition of scrap dealers and exempted pallet companies, so I hope that addresses the problem. I don't know if your city attorney, did you get the letter from county council?
I did receive that, and I actually need to talk to my folks first before I give you a response. There's another related issue I want to touch base
Okay.
with the city manager and council on.
Okay, well, that was the only issue that we were aware of, and after looking at that, we had changed our policy because the problem we were having with scrap metal theft was non-ferrous metals, and it was not pallets. So that was an oversight on our part using the state of California's definition, so that has been changed. If there's any other question about it, contact us and we'll do some research if you need it. The other thing I have is the West Side Healthcare Task Force, which was held here in Newman on September 6th. I feel that this group made a lot of progress in this last meeting. I know Councilman Kelly was there. And there's not everybody can make every meeting, but we have a really good core group. And we are analyzing the health services on the west side. We have a matrix now, so we know all the services that are provided, all the hours that clinics are open, what specialties the doctors have, and the amount of time that each doctor spends in this area. Some of them spend 100% of their time, some of them 20%. So we have a whole matrix now. We'd also discussed talking to the hospitals in Modesto and Emmanuel Hospital in Turlock, and we will have at our next meeting the figures on the amount of people going over there for emergency services and some non-emergency that could be handled here. So we're going to try and work out some deal with them so to try and get the people that are going to Emmanuel Hospital to stay here. There was also some discussion between Golden Valley and Del Puerto Healthcare District about keeping on a rotating basis a clinic open later at night than what we have. That's still a long ways off from any reality, but it has been discussed. So we were looking at what we have in this area and how to improve it and how to fill the gaps. And each meeting that we are making a lot of progress. Now this is a very complex thing that we're doing. So the progress will come slowly, but it is proceeding very well. And we have a cooperation from the 3 cities, 2 healthcare districts, Golden and Valley too. And so we are, each meeting we make some progress, and we have come a long ways when we first started, where we did not even know what kind of healthcare services we had in this area. The next meeting will be on November 1st, and it will be at the city of Patterson. And we are rotating the meetings between Gustine, Newman, and Patterson. And we're coming along just fine. I didn't expect this to have an instant result, but we are making results, and we are working together very well. And in the end, that we will have something good for the west side as we identify the gaps and what we need and how we can do things better. And we can only do this if we all work together, which we are. The last thing I have is the Crow's Landing Air Base development. The steering committee meets tomorrow morning at 7:30 at the County Administration Building. At that time, Mr. Camillos will present where he's at to the steering committee, because we have an ad hoc committee with Supervisor Monteith and myself, along with county staff and Mr. Camillos's consultants. That goes on a regular basis, but the steering committee meets every 3 months, and the steering committee will be updated at that time. Also, it's probably worth mentioning that the StanCog meeting tomorrow night, there is a agenda item to formally request from the state of California rail bond money for this project. And whether or not it's ever forthcoming is unknown, but I believe that most likely StanCog will go ahead along with this and request funding for it. Now, it goes to the California Transportation Committee to actually get the funding, and it will be a package deal with Northern California. So whether or not anything comes of it is unknown, but I think we probably should facilitate him and ask for the money. Now, his project is still 6-8 months away from being defined, and there's a lot of questions, about this, especially about the trains and the freight from the Port of Oakland. But this is where we're at the present time. We did receive a letter from the Port of Oakland, basically stating that their primary interest was in freight traveling to the east and to Chicago. That was what they were really focused on, although they had no objection to this, and they would look at anything as far south as Shafter for hauling containers. But their real focus of what they want from this rail bond money and for the Port of Oakland is to be able to ship east to Chicago. And that's a letter I just received a couple of days ago. That's where we're at with the air base.
Jim, I'm just curious on that now. And again, I don't know the rail system out here, but wouldn't that be going through Sacramento?
I'm not sure your question.
Well, like from the Oakland to Sacramento and straight out. I mean, where?
Oh, you mean where they want
where the train's going right now, probably.
That it is where they're going now. They're interested in raising the tunnel through the Donner Pass. Freight trains today are stacked too high with containers where they didn't used to be years ago, and the tunnel through the Donner Pass is not tall enough, so they can't do it. So for double stack containers, they have to have the trains routed around a longer course to come into the main line, and having Donner Pass tunnel raised to allow double stacking to come directly from the Port of Oakland through to Chicago or other points east is what they really want out of this rail bond money, primarily.
Do they want this thing in Crow's Landing?
Well, they didn't really say that they wanted it. It was just they said that. Well, they're not putting in any money. Let me say that. That is, if they really wanted it, they'd be putting in their own money. They did not say that, and they mentioned other places too that the trains might come for the hauling cargo in containers out of the Port of Oakland. One of them was Shafter, and there was a few other ones that I didn't remember too. Some of them already go into the Port of Stockton.
Stockton and Tracy. Yeah.
So this was the first letter that we'd ever received from the Port of Oakland, because I'd requested it a few times. So what is their intention? So their intention is that they're interested in the rail lines east.
Yeah, they could care less for.
Yeah. So I didn't bring that letter with me, but anybody who wants it, I'll be glad to send them a copy. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Item 11, items from the city manager and staff.
Thank Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to pass this around. At the request of our public safety personnel, because we've had so many new roads brought in, and they've requested that we do a map so that it's be a real quick shot for them. So we work with Compass Maps, I believe is the company, and we paid a small nominal fee for them to allow us to basically have our own little copyright of the city. On the back is a copy of the index. On the front will be the map. We will be passing out black and white copies to members of the public if they want it, and each of the public safety personnel vehicles will have a copy of this in there. So if any of the council members want a copy of this, we can produce that for you as well. So we anticipate we'll probably laminate them or do something to protect the integrity of them for the public safety personnel on there. So I'm proud to announce that that all went well at the Fall Festival. I know the mayor will probably give a more detailed description, but I think our police department did an excellent job. They were highly visible. Not only did they take care of what was the actions that were transpiring within the park itself, but they kept a perimeter as well, kept people circling around on the mule to make sure that they saw what was coming in and what was going out, and kept a good eye on that. So through their excellent job, we were able to keep things down to a minimum in terms of distractions. The other thing that was a big hit there was the playground. If any of you got to go by the playground, my goodness, it
Packed
was
the whole
absolutely
weekend.
packed at all times, which I think made the parents really happy because they didn't have to spend as much money at the carnival. My kids wanted to be over at the playground. I was happy with it.
That's why that carnival guy wasn't too happy this year.
Yeah. So, but if you look at the playground really brings a nice dynamic and nice feel to the park. If you really take a look at it, it brings a more woodsy feel by having the wood chip, the 5-bar in there, and it really makes you notice the trees a little bit more. It just kind of gives it an overall different feel. So it was a very successful fall festival, and I know that the playground equipment was well received. I'm just walking by, and you could just really, I heard lots of parents that were talking to each other, not necessarily to me, about like how much they liked the playground and those types of things. This last week I met with Cleve
Michael, real
Morris.
fast, what's the timeline on when they're going to demo the bathrooms and bring the rest of
The
that
building's in plan check right now.
Okay.
So I know the Permit Green, the operator, the construction wants to do that immediately. So.
Okay. Keep in mind too, Mayor, we talked about possibly looking into maybe a couple electrical upgrades too
Yes.
around that area.
Yes.
If you could mention that to him, maybe you can bring something back to us on what we can do or can't do, to make it a little better overall, since we'll be taking that whole panels off.
Yes. Again, as I started to mention, I met with Cleve Morris, city manager from Patterson, this last week, and next week we'll be sitting down to talk about future water projects. The city of Patterson will be doing a surface water treatment plant. Their cost estimate is approaching $100 million right now. Which is pretty significant. But their cost estimate includes purchase of the water as well, and the water rights, which is pretty significant as well. But we just want to discuss and get our engineers and our public works departments together. We had approached this subject with Gustine to the south, and they didn't tend to be as responsive, but. We were going to look at the city of Patterson, and even if we had to build a 12-mile pipeline, there may be some savings for both communities if we can combine one type of facility, and maybe it's halfway, maybe it's a third of the way. We don't know where it'd be located, but it wouldn't be prudent for us not to at least get our engineers to talk and our public works directors to talk to see if there's any merit in terms of doing anything about that. So. Last week, the chief and I met with Rick Foss and the principal over at Hunt School. As anyone who's ever been in that area between 7:45 and 8:07, 8:10, it's quite hectic. And part of the situation is parents don't really know how to drive, and they all want to drop their kids off 30 seconds before the bell rings. And the second thing is there's no outlet there. So the chief and I continue to look at ways. One of the best ways that we as city staff look at it is there's an area that's immediately north of the school buildings where the playground area is. If you enter that off of our street and just kind of do a cut in between the trees and do a drop off area, it could be a 2-lane where one parks and one can go through. Get the parents there dropping their kids off. That opens up the intersection a lot more, and you don't get as much conflict and stacking going on there. That's one potential solution. The other potential solution that we saw is just doing a drive aisle that goes all the way from our street to Hardin, and then they have 2 outlets there. They can either go to the south, or go left and go out toward Doriston, or go right and go out through the new subdivision. The new subdivision is now, the gates are down, and that should be open on a full-time basis and hopefully provide an outlet. Now, of course, the school district's answer was extend Stevens all the way through to the Fig, and that was their solution there. But that's
How does that alleviate the parking problem at the school?
The idea, Michael, of cutting in on Northside School, that was something that when I was on the school board that we looked at, but obviously there was a high cost involved. Somewhere, if I remember right, somewhere around $200,000, give or take a few thousand here and there.
We did the Barrington Park new parking lot for $100,000. So
just keep in mind, and just so you know, when you talk school district versus city, there's a big difference when you start doing projects on school property.
Right. You have to go through the state.
So there is, you got to go through DSA. There's all kinds of issues, but I know that was something that was looked at when I was on the school board. There was a cost involved, and it just never materialized beyond talk. But that was my immediate suggestion, was to cut that in there, but it never went any further than suggestion. But the other side is, I don't know when they're going to take down the gates on that property. We're still up last night when I came in.
They were supposed to have those taken down last week.
Well,
so.
they're
still up.
They're still up and locked?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, those are city streets, so we've already told them that they need to take those down, so we'll definitely check with that, so.
Hey, Michael, has anybody thought about staggering the start times? I mean, do they all have to go to school at the same time every day?
Are you talking about the children at Hunt? Yeah, I don't know.
Something they could try. I mean,
Right.
But they could think about anyway. Maybe it's not practical.
Yeah, and part of the situation is, this was really designed to be a middle school, and now it became an elementary school, and it just, there's issues there with, you need better circulation at elementary school than you do at a middle school, because kids walk more towards the middle school. And then there were some issues that, when it was a middle school, and the placement of some of the portable structures, and I guess maybe there was a direct route where it could have went out to YOLO, and there's a building in the way now. So there's lots of constraints that we have to work with, but I know Dr. Foss wants to see it resolved, and so the chief and I will continue to work with him and see what we can do to try to get that situation rectified. So, but essentially, it does require money to solve this particular issue at this point in time. So we're going to have to look at that and see what's the most appropriate way to move forward from both agencies' perspectives. So. With that, our soccer program, we did touch on this. Our soccer program began on Saturday. We were able to put together 4 fields out at Sherman Park, and this year what we decided to do were paint lines on the field. If you've ever been to Barrington, you see how we burned them in, and it kind of made ruts. Well, this year there was a paint gun in the budget, so we're purchasing a paint gun, and we're actually going to stripe it every single week. Parents love it.
It's more time consuming, but it sure makes your grass and your parks last longer.
It does,
and it looks nicer, also. But burning that hole in that grass, especially when you do it year after year after year, it does create those low valleys. So
right.
I was glad to see that we're paying it. I know it takes a little bit more time, but it sure will. It looks nicer and it will last a lot longer too.
Yeah. So what we're doing is that we're using some of our profits from the snack bar to pay to pay someone out there 1 day a week to go out and burn and to paint those on Fridays. So it's a real good program. Lots of parents, I think, they were very happy out there. Snack bar made almost $800 in 6 hours. Jeez. Yeah, it was unreal. But she's not here, but our recreation supervisor Terry does an excellent job. So teams, can for $1 per player after the game, you get a soda, which is a 16-ounce cup of soda, and either a hot dog or nachos for $1 a player. So 18 at.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta be a coach or a player, but if you want
have a parent.
a coach or a player, yeah, we can get you a uniform, Bob. We can get you a uniform.
Yeah.
But
He got caught.
hamburgers are selling for $2. Can of soda is $1. They're very candy bar 75 cents. They're very reasonable, and I think that plays a large part in it. So some of the things we need to work upon is. We have trash can receptacles up on top, but we don't have down the play field. So Berlotti's going to drop us off a few cans this week, and we're going to roll them out there so that way people can put their trash in a trash can instead of leaving it out there. We still have a large problem with parents not picking up their kids' trash or the kids not picking up their own trash. And I know it frustrates a lot of us that you go out there afterwards and they just one tent left up, one team left, and there's 10 juice boxes right there, and no one cares to pick those up. So hopefully by moving some trash cans out there, we'll get a little bit better cooperation on there. But all in all, I think it was a very successful event, and you'll see if you get a chance to drive by there anytime between 9 and probably 2:30, you'll see there's a lot of people out there, and a lot of them are having fun. So
Isn't that the responsibility of the coaches? To have their kids clean up their mess.
well, yes, it is. I want to make sure mine do.
Coach Holland.
we do. So sometimes the kids will take off and go with their parents. So it's and what happens is you give the snack and the drink to the kid, and they take off with their parent, and who knows what happens after that. So
That's why you're making the big bucks.
that's right. So
Clean up the park. Oh.
and lastly, I know the mayor touched on this briefly with Sherman Parkway with the acceptance of those landscaping. We had some issues with our contractor that was awarded the LLD work. So we've given him 30-day notice that we're going to terminate his contract, and so we'll be bringing back before you the second lowest bid, and which will be a local gentleman, and hopefully we'll get a lot better service. And we expect that we're going to get a lot better service out of the local gentleman. Then we just weren't getting Johnson Landscaping. We just weren't getting a response. They just weren't responding. The mayor can even testify. There's 4-foot tall weeds out in some of the areas over there, and they just weren't getting out there. So the public works director and the superintendent came to me today and said they wanted to go ahead and terminate that contract and give them 30-day notice as allowed under our contract. So that's what we did today. So with that, I'll turn it over to the rest of my staff. I think we got 2 here tonight.
Where is everyone else?
Looks like they're
Give them the
flipping
night
a
off, or? Sorry about that, Chief.
Here comes our comic relief right here.
This can be a riveting report.
I'm sorry. Council, I'd like to, it's nice to report out that right now we have 2 officers in background, various stages of background. We currently have 2 vacant positions. One applicant is an academy graduate. The other applicant is a lateral from another department. The first background I'm hoping to have wrapped up within the next couple of weeks and then be able to make a job offer. The second background probably would be 3-4 weeks behind that one. In addition to that, we also have 2 reserve officers in background. One is in the final stages of this background, everything's looking good, and the other is in the initial stages of this background. So I'm excited to report that hopefully we're going to have some more officers on the street in very short order. Also, tomorrow is the completion of our lunchroom project. This project has been floating around out there for quite a while, and I don't want to say how long, but it's been quite a while.
And tomorrow we have a group of officers coming in to volunteer their own time to install the cabinets, appliances, and the fixtures. And hopefully this time next week we'll have a fully functional lunchroom. And to show my appreciation, I'm hosting a barbecue for the volunteers, city staff. Council is welcome to attend about 12 o'clock tomorrow. If you like, come in and join us for our barbecue. Celebrate our lunchroom. Won't be completed by 12. That's when we're going to have the barbecue.
You gotta feed the volunteers, right? There you go.
Feed the volunteers first. Last Thursday morning, Newman Police Department, in collaboration with Modesto Police Department, under a grant from the Health Department, conducted a child safety restraint checkpoint. It's an educational instructional checkpoint over at Von Renner School. It's about approximately 1 hour duration. During that 1 hour, over 50 vehicles came through the checkpoint. Approximately half of them had child safety restraints, and they provided instructional, educational information to the parents on how to safely install the child safety restraints and make sure the child was properly fastened. Also last month, I had 2 officers attend an 8-hour course on the child safety restraints. Officer Joaquin Flores and our CSO Edgar Flores attended the class, and in, I believe it's going to be in April, will be the 32-hour class that they'll need to attend in order to be certified in child safety restraints. So it's going to be a service that the Newman Police Department is going to be able to offer to the community, where they can come to the police department and we can show them how to safely install their restraint system, to making sure their children are safely fastened in their restraints.
Chief, out of curiosity, 32 hours, 8 hours and 32 hours?
Yes, I had the same response as to why so many hours, but it is a very complex, complicated situation. Not only the safety restraints, but the laws as they're written in California go along with that. But it does take 32 hours to be certified in child safety restraint systems. So
Michael, when was the last time you had to use child safety restraint seat?
He didn't have to when his kids were growing up. Threw them in the back.
I didn't have them. I put one in my pickup for my granddaughter with my son-in-law. Took 2 of us, and
it's confusing.
to make sure you get it in right and secure. It doesn't lean, it doesn't go forward, it doesn't go backwards, and
Anchored properly.
yeah.
But yes,
32
you're right.
hours.
It's a 32-hour course in order to be certified in that. The 8-hour course was just an overview. Yeah.
Of the 32 hours.
Of the 32 hours.
Refresher.
Yeah.
So basically a whole week out.
It's a
Thank you.
4-day class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A whole week
Yeah.
to get certified. Wow.
And also recently, within the last couple of weeks, again, I like to see Newman Police Department operate on a regional basis, not just a local basis. We participated in Operation Falcon. This was a multi-county warrant sweep conducted by the U.S. Marshal's Office, and officers from Newman Police Department hooked up with officers from the Sheriff's Department and went out serving warrants not only in Newman but throughout the county. But again, bringing outside resources into Newman, and think of Newman on a regional basis, not just a local basis. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Chief, I just want to thank you and your officers for a job well done during the Fall Festival. I mean, everything turned out very well. And thanks again. A few minor little things, but they nipped them in the bud, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you, and I will pass it on to him. Thank
Yes,
you, Mayor.
thank you.
Thank you.
I have 3 informational items. The no parking signs along Hardin, both sides of the street, they're all done, so now I turn it over to Randy. Also, when we met for our PG&E Rule 20 meeting, after the meeting, City Engineer Gary Rogers and I went over to Hidden Canyon Way to take a look at the problem with the puddling there at the intersection. It appears that perhaps by removing 2 of the panels of the gutter and lowering them down. It appears that that tree might be pushing them up and creating a high point. But the city engineer wanted to take additional elevation shots through there. He was on vacation last week, but he said that when he came back on his way to Patterson to do some work, he was gonna call me and we'll stop by and get additional elevations, and perhaps by removing those 2 sections of curbs and gutters, we might be able to eliminate that problem. And then by Thursday, I think we're going to start on the leveling course on L Street, because the county informed me, the Public Works Department, that they're ready to go. The bids are in for the street overlays. George Reed Incorporated was the low bidder, and the bids were really favorable, and they're anticipating the work to begin by the 10th of October. Any questions?
Ernie, I want to thank you and your staff also for the Fall Festival work. I mean, a lot of hours go into setting up and lights and everything, and downtown and the signs and everything. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll let them know.
Thank you, Ernie. Items from City Council members. Mike?
Nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Bob?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that the Fall Festival, I thought it was a good Fall Festival. As all Fall Festivals, you always have things that go wrong, but this one was a good one. I thank John and all the volunteers that helped out, and Ernie Garza and the chief. I had occasion to talk to 3 different officers during that period, and they were outstanding as far as the way they conduct themselves, very professional, and really a credit to the police department. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Ted?
Again, I reiterate what Bob said. I compliment you and your staff, John. That was excellent. And I think the judges that you had for the lip sync were excellent, too. And
Were you on that
Randy-
panel, or?
Huh?
You were on that panel, weren't you?
Oh, yes.
okay.
And I almost got killed because of what it's a tough group. But Randy, too, same thing. The police, there wasn't one beer stand robbed. There wasn't one.
Only had one.
No, it was excellent. If you didn't get out there, shame on you, because it was the whole feeling. You guys were raised here, don't understand that. I know Bob and I talk about this all the time, but you guys are so lucky. This isn't happening in other places in the country, or in the world probably, but it's excellent. You just feel so proud being there, being part of it. So your group did a super job. Thank you very much.
Ed?
Wow.
I'm sorry.
I don't really have much to say. Attended the annual conference in Sacramento Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It was very informative. Over 2,300 council members and mayors, and I think there's even some attorneys there, probably some city attorneys and city managers. But it was very informative, and attended work sessions throughout each day, and got a lot of good information and a lot of networking, and so it was a great conference, and so that was pretty much it.
Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
Again, thank you for everyone's help during the Fall Festival, and I couldn't do it without the great committee that we have. I mean, it takes a lot of hours, and they're dedicated, and they put their time in also, and couldn't do it alone. Appreciate everything. Thank community for coming out and supporting everything during the whole event. Turned out very well. And when Bob's a chairman next year, he's sorry. Oh. Sorry, Bob.
He's not saying no.
He's not saying that.
He's grabbing his heart.
His heart dropped. But sincerely, thank you very much. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting